about is, having these candidates with their June obligations as well.
Absolutely.
For instance, if they have to sit in on their high school graduations as sitting superintendents.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is another variable that we're thinking about. And it's unavoidable.
Yeah.
We
I
could
don't
also
know.
open up to 12.
That's what I was saying.
For finals
Tenth
or for
For
semi?
semis.
Semi, 10th and 12th.
If we need that extra day.
Or even for local people, if we have to go earlier, the 7th. I think Sammy's gonna have her hands full that weekend with graduation.
What about,
Well, and I'm worried
just
about,
throwing this out there, what about the 12th and 13th? And then we can maybe go 17th and 18th?
could we do 10th and 13th?
Then he has to fly out, so then we've got it.
The 18th runs into Father's Day weekend. Thank you for this calendar, by the way.
Oh, yes, it's beautiful.
Okay, I have another suggestion here. What about the 7th, 8th
For,
That might be,
for the
for the
semifinals?
semis, it might be too early. Well, if it,
They've got to fly out. They hear on Thursday, on Friday. They have to have a flight.
No, the semifinalists.
that's what he's saying. So your semifinals, you get notice the end of the day on Friday. On Tuesday, I want you to come do an interview.
Well, because we were saying the 9th, so that's only pushing it.
so we don't know for sure that 8th or the 10th will have any conflicts with the candidates. We're
Right.
just theoretically saying it's possible, so.
So if I can, on the list, you usually contact the pool, like you say, here's the 10 we're presenting. Do you
Right.
contact them and say, your name is being put forth as one of the 10?
Typically,
And hold open these, if you can, hold open these dates or what's your availability on these dates for semifinals.
and we explain
Yeah,
that.
we absolutely can do that,
Okay.
because Tony and I will be interviewing them and talking with them personally. So on the, when we tell them that they are going to be presented, because we will actually have a conversation with them on Wednesday the 1st and 2nd, say, hey, are you still in?
Gotcha.
You know, and so when we do that conversation, we can say, hey, the 7th and then 8th might be an option, so you need to hold it open. Also, I'm fairly certain we can go ahead and put, once we have this in concrete form, we can put this exact timeline on the website where they apply, so they can be fully aware of that.
If we can make the 7th and 8th work, I would be.
I'm fine with that. I guess the question I have is putting a candidate in the difficult situation of having a commitment on the same day we want them to be a finalist interview. And what, if any, way can that be mitigated? Tony?
Yeah, I think that's a variable that we just are not in control of. I think that we could set this in place and seek the candidate's commitment and to move things around.
Or what we,
So by,
if I could suggest, another way to do that is to maybe have on the calendar that's posted to say finalist interviews, something like 15th and or 16th. So we save ourselves that ability because we want to accommodate our best candidates.
Sure.
And so that it's not forced on one day, we've left that open and their community knows. And everyone in the community is going to have to, we'll have to be flexible to that. And if we think that there's 2 days in which we might have our finalist interviews, I think that's probably the way, because that would really, I would hate to put someone in that
Sure.
position.
Well, I think that's probably why they did it on Sat, well, it was
There's a host of
Saturdays,
reasons.
because there's probably not school conflicts, so that's probably not true, so it doesn't
Right.
matter. There's always gonna be school conflicts, and this time of year just makes it worse.
Right. So that's a good accommodation.
Okay, so then we could say, was there any problem that we knew of from 15th or 16th for finalist interviews? Okay, so why don't we just hold those as finalist interviews as needed?
Mhm.
And then we will
I guess
find,
my concern is we wanna give our community as much advance notice. of
that's
this
right,
time.
but I think the advance notice is the finalist interviews on the 15th and or the 16th.
Yes, all right,
Yeah,
And then what about the semifinalist guys?
Can
And-
we do a similar thing, that they will be held over the 7th through the 13th, and as we get,
That's way too.
I think we should choose the days we're available,
Okay.
if we could, and then, Tony and
I
Ray
agree.
deal with the logistics of when they bring them to us.
We can
okay,
talk
And
about
Tony
it.
and I will make sure that if you want them on the 7th and the 8th, we'll make sure that they know that,
Early in the process.
Maybe,
How many
Yeah,
hours for each of those days?
Yeah, what is,
Yeah, the hours.
can you run through the timeline of what a typical semifinalist interview would look like? For just one candidate?
So what we're gonna do, we're gonna work with you on some questions that you might wanna ask. But let's say if you have 3 people, come in on
The 7th.
7th, you might go ahead and, I don't know what your schedules are like. Most boards, do those meetings during the evening, so they might start at like 4 and then go like 4 to 5, and then give themselves, maybe 15, 20 minutes, and then just, another hour, and then another hour. Some boards will go ahead with an hour and a half. I think that that's fine, but now you're getting to the point where it's going to be a long day for the candidates and you doing the interviews. So usually an hour is good enough.
Okay, and then is that usually include just the board or any other constituent groups?
Well,
That's the board.
yeah.
Okay,
that's
and
exactly
then with
what-
the intention and with, consistent with law and all the other respectful provisions, that is subject to, that's executive session, and there's no need for those, and for candidates to get the best pool, okay.
Yeah.
So, so if those are an hour-ish, and with maybe breaks, makes a lot of sense. And I would think by that time, we've seen the things, we've got our criteria, an hour would be sufficient.
we just have a board meeting on the 7th,
Yeah, so you'll note on the calendar, we have a 4 PM
board meeting.
board meeting on this.
Right.
But that gives you the
Why
option
do
of
we-
the.
Oh, because the graduation.
So for, right, mine Tuesdays are always clear, so we can do a noon, a 1:15, and a 2:30, or something like that, and be done by 4. And give us 15 minutes each, in between each.
Okay, I think.
So that would be one day of 3 interviews. What would be the second day?
The 8th,
The
Okay.
Oh, the 8th, okay.
and during the day again.
So then I teach now, I used my new teaching, so I teach until,
But
although I
that's,
think
that's gonna be finals week for you.
It's not for me,
You're
I'm still
Director Hayes,
teaching.
I love you. I think you are correct at the last day
On
of
your wife's
classes.
birthday.
But for me, it's not. I'm teaching, so
You're
it's
teaching
not
on that
finals.
Wednesday?
It's not, I teach on that, Thursday,
Okay,
Are you
we're
free on that
looking at
Wednesday?
Wednesday,
You're free on the Wednesday?
yes.
Okay.
Well, that's what we're looking at.
So then, yeah, so then we can make that work on the Wednesday,
Morning would be great.
9, 10, 15, 11:30ish.
Yeah, We're in school.
All right, cool.
Okay, so then those, then that way you guys in the announcement and your communications, that makes their job easier.
And then last question, guys, on this, probably not the last question, on the schedule. So then after we do the finalist round of interviews, then we have to schedule a final meeting. Right, this is the last item on their schedule, so we'll need, after the 15th, 16th, we'll need a time.
17th.
Actually, no.
No?
So what happens is when, I'll say, let's see, on the 8th. So on the 8th, when you're done with your last interview, if you remember me when we were all there, I said, we come right back in with another matrix to fill out.
Okay,
And so you'll have your 2 or 3 people that you're meeting with on the 15th and 16th figured out on the 9th, or the night of the 9th. Now, on the 16th, if you, let's just go ahead and say you interviewed somebody on the 15th, then you interviewed somebody on the 16th, or both on the 16th, Tony and I come right back in. And it's the easiest matrix that you all have to fill out. It has 2 or 3 names on it. And so we actually, you'll have your conversation with Tony and I on the 16th.
okay, so that's part of that day, the 16th.
Correct.
Okay.
And then do we, just from a perspective on, like in terms of like the salary posting and the contract negotiations, would we then go into a public meeting to vote, or do we have a contract? What does that end of process look like?
Let's be public.
Very,
I think it's a couple different things. I'll explain one, and then Tony, if you want to go
Sure.
ahead. What we would do if you all voted and you said, this individual is our candidate, Tony and I can pick up the phone, call that candidate and say, hey, listen, based on the contract negotiations, you are the selected individual, would you take the job? Figuring out vacation days and car allowance and that kind of stuff is easy to do at that point. So, Tony?
yeah, I agree. I think that it could be done simultaneously. And you're gonna be doing, obviously, you're gonna do it public vote, and, but we could get an immediate turnaround.
But that is a question in terms of the voting. We can't, in executive session, we can still talk about the characteristics of the candidates, whatever. We can't choose the candidate in the
Correct.
executive session. We have to,
So then their names are out there.
well, the 3 names are out there already. And so then, after we've discussed the final 3 finalists, we've done our matrix, we can't take the vote, but we have that discussion, then we go into public session, and then the chair says, I'll take a motion. One of us says, I move that candidate Q be offered the superintendent position. Someone seconds it, we have discussion, and then we take a vote. Is that essentially what
Amy
happens?
will say in executive session, is the board prepared to vote on a candidate?
Right.
Right,
Without asking who.
correct.
And it's done in public, if it's, 5-0, 4-1, 3-2, whatever it might be. But that's what Amy takes charge of and gauges
We
the,
definitely don't want 3-2.
yeah, right. Amy will judge the readiness of the board to act on a
Right.
recommendation.
Right. Okay, so we will, after we have the interviews, all the information, we will discuss. When the board is ready to vote, we will then go into public session and we'll take our vote. And then assuming, and then you will talk to, and then assuming that then that candidate would accept, which we would expect, although you do have to touch base with candidates. Some candidates come out and visit and they'll say, I'm not interested. They will withdraw.
We will gauge that before.
Exactly, you'll know that all the
Consider-
candidates, or if
So
anyone's.
I feel like what we don't have built in here is like processing time, we're on a tight timeline, but I feel like we're sounding like we don't even have a day to think about this decision, and we're gonna make it wait then, and I don't like that.
Well, we did talk that the 15th and the 16th finalists would have an opportunity to engage with the community in some kind of town hall event. So there would be some mechanism for some feedback on the 15th and or 16th. And then with that, we would want to have that for a discussion.
Yeah, what we could do is offer you, let's say that candidate has like an open forum, this is who I am, and this is why I want to come to your district, here's a little bit about me. And then what we can offer to your constituents is a candidate impression form. And so they can write down exactly what they like about the candidate, some things that they maybe just did not like about the candidate. They don't have to put their name on it, they can if they want. But what we can do is Tony and I can collect all those. So when on the 16th we come in and talk about those 2 or 3 candidates, you can look through all those papers all you want. They're there for you. Maybe it takes 30 to 45 minutes, totally up to you.
But yeah, those audience observations are pretty helpful.
Yeah.
But if I
It just depends, and we can talk about later how we want to get the information from those candidates, or how we want to include the constituents, the people from your community, because there are certain ways that are better than others, but we can discuss that later.
So we would interview the candidates one day with the community present, gather input, and then the next day, we're actually making the decision.
Well, it depends. You can actually interview both candidates on the 15th
Or
and have the interaction with the community and make the decision on the 15th, or you can split it up to the 15th or 16th. It can be done one day.
Yeah,
with 2
that's
candidates.
the piece I don't like.
Do you not, let me clarify what I hear you saying. Are you not liking making the decision the day you have the interview?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you're proposing whether the interviews were all on the 15th or on the 15th and 16th, you would still want a night to sleep on it and make the decision on the 17th. And I think, if I can, knowing how these processes generally work, I think we could leave that open, because if Amy's like, is the board ready to decide, and the board's not ready to decide, we could wait until the next day to convene our public meeting. If we have come to that conclusion, and there's kind of an overwhelming sense from the board as well as the community, we could make that decision on
But we
that
have to
day.
give 24-hour notice.
We could,
We could post it and
we
just,
could
as a
cancel
holding
it.
meeting.
Well, we'd have to be careful how we form the
Well, we can
agenda
still-
on the 16th.
We could still
So,
convene, even if it's a very short meeting.
I just guess, why aren't we doing, why are we not doing, we're trying to give them two different choices, right, between the 15th and the 16th.
right, exactly.
But your point about making the decision to sleep on it or not to sleep on it, I think it's,
I think we should try
generally
to
boards
put,
don't sleep on it, they just make the choice that day.
Generally,
Generally, yes.
but boards have taken time to let it rest and to come back and
I like to
reconvene.
let it rest.
And
I think if you do that, I mean, if we sleep on it, realistically, we're gonna have that last interview, and then we're gonna go home, that's what we're gonna do, we're gonna sleep and then wake up. And, so, I would think that most candidates generally, within 24 hours, will want to know. Now, if it gets spread out to 48, 72, then that's gonna be concerning to candidates.
Would it be possible, what do you think, Kimberly, theoretically speaking, and again, it's easier once we have the candidates and their schedules, but if we have the last interview in the morning of the 16th, and then we don't meet again till the evening?
And that might be fine.
Yeah.
I've seen Snohomish's process now and Edmonds, and they're both not making the decision on the day they interview. So, in fact, I just had a question from one of the board members at Edmonds, so they're a week out already. So I guess that it's not like unusual to take 24 hours to make a decision on candidates.
You could also actually do both interviews on the 15th and then the morning of the 16th.
Well, that's what, I'm hoping maybe you can fit maybe it'll work that everyone can interview, and I'm hoping we have 3 candidates, and everyone can interview on the 15th, and then the 16th we could do that. But I mean, sure.
I kind of like that, but again, leaving the 15th and 16th open, knowing for the other reasons we would have that. I don't mind that at all. And just being clear with the candidates, you know, and that, you know, but yeah, you'd be ready the day after
Yeah.
to make a decision,
Yeah,
right?
I just
And-
think we're already doing a rush process because we didn't, know until this timeline that we were gonna be in this position. And so we already have a rush process, and there's nothing wrong with taking 24 hours to just
So how about this? How about we
or, 18
Right.
hours.
So what we'll probably know when we get around the 3rd, I would guess, if the 15th is not a good day for any of these
Correct.
people, right? So that gives us plenty of time. If we have to schedule a meeting on the 17th, if we can have as our optimal schedule, finalist interviews on the 15th, and an evening meeting on the 16th to vote. And then if we need to, we'll know early in June if we need to push it out to the 17th.
Correct.
But with the expectation for us and the candidates that a decision has to be made, and a decision can be made not to offer the job to any of the candidates. That's always a decision, but we would make that decision by the 17th.
Yeah, we're gonna have to know by the 3rd at the latest, I think. But, because for interim, but still, theoretically, you're right, we could decide.
Well, what I'm just saying is,
at any
right, for
point in
this process,
Yes.
process, we will take action
Right,
by the 17th.
so aim for.
So no matter what happens on the 15th, 16th, if we want a night to sleep on it, that's fine and well, but on the 17th, we will take action, and you
At the latest, so we're gonna, ideally,
right,
interviews 15th, action on 16th, but if we have to move that, we'll know a couple weeks ahead.
yeah, and in terms of the under-promising and over-delivering, saying that the decision will be made by the 17th, and so if we make a decision on the 16th, we can get, maybe David can get gold stars for us. Yeah, so that would get gold stars.
Or we
Maybe
are
a piece of candy, maybe
super
we can
job.
get a piece of candy too. And- Okay,
Not silver anymore now, we've upgraded to gold.
they're hard to find.
Okay,
Okay,
So, I guess that takes us to topics for discussion number 2.
Well, that, seriously, we knew this was gonna be tricky because of spring break, so
Yeah.
I'm glad we were able to tackle that.
Yeah, the rest of this we can roll through. So if you look at determining the process, who will be involved, in developing the profile, we've already discussed that. We have our survey, we have our open forums in the meeting and open forums in the evening, and then our subgroups within the district. We've kind of talked about the interview process, so we just need to talk about the subgroups.
Okay,
So,
great.
obviously, we want to meet with teachers, parents, central office, et cetera.
So I'm gonna kick us, and Kimberly already has a list, I'm gonna kick us off. There's already a group of stakeholders that we've started as a board communicating with to keep them updated. So we
Great.
have 5 technically bargaining units, because we've been doing our teachers and our
Across
parents
them all.
together. So, and I can get all these, so this is who I've been communicating with. So NSCA, who's our teachers bargaining unit, NESPA, who's our paraeducator bargaining units. We have basically 2 different classifications of admin bargaining units, and then the principals. So these are 5 bargaining units we've already been, giving
But when you
updates
say
to.
bargaining units, you don't mean we're actually talking to the principals, that's their.
That's their, so it
Official
happened to be,
representatives.
yes, it's their
Yeah.
representatives, there were 3 of them. That they have as the representatives of their bargaining unit. So
Do
those,
you want them all together or separately?
well, I think let me list the groups, and then I think we'll decide, because they have different sizes. And then our district level PTA, we have a special education advocacy group.
Yeah.
And so those, and our schools foundation.
Yeah.
So that's 8 right off the top, and they're different sizes, and that's something to ask, when we're talking teachers, so we talk only they probably have a leadership team, I would think, they would want to invite, but, on top of that, there's another group I'd like to add, I guess you guys will agree with this, but, we have our natural leaders group.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
So that's our Hispanic families, and we have a staff member here in this building who coordinates with these groups in our schools. So we could probably reach out to them pretty simply.
Yes, for sure.
Okay, so that's
And
mine.
if you can combine some groups,
Yeah,
that always is good too.
right, like with the 2 admin groups, maybe that might be a logical one to combine, because there's only 2 representatives for each, so putting them together.
Do you want to meet with any civic organizations, any leadership?
So do you want me to write what I wrote, read who I wrote, outside of what you just said?
Sure.
Principals.
So which we got that
She said
one.
that.
Oh, you said the principal group, the bargaining group.
Well, and we have 30 principals though, so it's larger than the 20. So maybe we could work with the bargaining unit folks who we've been talking to about how to make that, because we can't quite do all 30, what do we do? What year shaking your head?
Well, I was just going to say, keep in mind representative, but then also if these are during the day and our staff
Right.
members are working, et cetera. So, and just a point of clarification we have 14 bargaining groups, so there's more than 5. So
Right.
we have our mechanics, our grounds, our other transportation.
So maybe
just
you
to
can
keep-
put all those together, the bargaining groups, like
Well, it
which ones
just
would
depends
go
on,
together.
we can get the list for you, but it's just
Right.
important to know.
So on this, though, this is coming up soon, but not today. Can we get a draft of these groups and then, because, we could always add some more. At least here's kind of the initial grouping, so like the bus, the grounds.
You don't have to come up with this today.
It doesn't have to be
I think we
finalized,
should
but,
talk through it.
right, but yeah, I thought we had 11, so now but however many of those groups we have, and then do natural combinations of them.
So Tony, is it kind of standard to just meet with representatives from every bargaining unit?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm thinking.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. And then, so teachers, but you're saying that's the bargaining, when you say bargaining, you're including teachers that are on the ground? when you
Yes,
say
for
that.
sure.
Okay. I said
We'll
bus
have to-
drivers.
Right, so that would be, they're represented by a bargaining unit, so that would be a way to get them.
And then individual bus
Right.
drivers can act, will actually.
Well, see, and that's why, don't forget, we have the town halls and we have these focus groups.
But
The
yes.
focus groups,
Yeah.
15 to 20.
Right,
So the representatives aren't 15 to 20, probably.
but there's probably more than 15 to 20 bus drivers.
Right.
Right.
So how do you choose which ones would come, Leanna?
I would say the organization that's typically, as Dr. Apostle said, if you have your bargaining units, you have individuals who they have identified to represent their specific needs. So, you know, it depends on how you're going to structure these events, and it's identifying individuals. Typically, they're folks who have had a leadership role within their bargaining
Yeah,
unit.
the teachers may say, well, we'd like to have our building, each
Right.
building reps be in attendance
Yeah.
and represent their school, for instance.
So, and
Okay,
then,
so
and then in terms of this, just if I can, because I think it'll help. So then you would then go through that kind of negotiation, logistical process of, so for the bus drivers, say we usually like to do 15 to 20, how would you like to choose the
Yeah,
15 to 20?
I think that we would have to leave it to that group's leadership to
Correct.
say, okay, here are the numbers
So
that
they
we think
choose.
work,
I see,
because this is
okay.
the physical setting, and here's what we're doing for all other groups, so they see it to be treated fairly,
Right.
and so.
Right.
Okay. I put admins
Right, which we got.
in the building. And I put Bothell City all the city councils that we would,
I know they don't reciprocate, right? Because I thought of the city councils too, but I realized they didn't invite us to come contribute to their hiring, like the most recent city that did their city manager.
They
So is
could,
that,
they could receive invitations to the
Okay.
open forums,
okay.
rather than specific.
I think given that relationship, because, you know, we're the largest tax authority in all the 3 cities in which we are, and because some of their issues, especially with sidewalks and other things, and various sundry issues, the school district and the cities intersect with, I would think it'd be great to have city representatives. I don't think it just has to be elected, it could be
Yeah,
the city
that's true.
manager, it could be their police or public works director, but I absolutely would want to have at least
specific
one
focus group?
specific, but the other question is, would you then include, and this is just that kind of, yeah, how you eat your wedding,
Right.
the wedding table, who gets to sit by who?
Trust me.
Would the fire districts, because we have multiple
I have
fire
that.
districts,
Fire
and is
and
that
police.
separate, or would that be, would fire and police be a different group than your municipal leaders?
I think they would all.
Usually what we've seen is, districts will go ahead and combine them all, and it works out just fine.
And the legislators.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we have
because we
very
have
good
people that are
relationship.
very involved and have been on our school board, like Rosemary and.
And they might send their aid,
Correct, and
Right,
they might
right.
not even come, but
Right.
that they should be included in this, I don't know whether it's the city part or,
You have 2 things.
because we have a close, you, Sandy, have built a close relationship, don't you think they
With
should
all 9 of
all
them,
be invited?
To something, yeah, whether they have their own stuff, I don't know.
There's a couple of ways to
Yeah,
do this.
okay.
One is to invite individuals, you know, representing an organization, and making sure that they all feel very welcome, but it's not designated just for that single organization. So you have multiple invitations going to the fire district, police, and so forth. The same would be true with Kiwanis and Rotary and so
Oh,
forth.
Chambers, yeah.
Chamber, and the invitation to participate goes a long ways. And because it's a tight timeline, because the venues are limited, you want to be sure that the invitations go out and people are free to know that you're welcome their input and invitation to participate. But trying to have a designated event for a single entity would be really cumbersome.
Well, and I think that, you know, and maybe this is the way you guys do it, that maybe the legislators, city, fire, police, Rotaries, Kiwanis, they all have their, you know, because I don't know how comfortable they might feel speaking up at a town hall with our community members, because there's still,
And I was thinking maybe we
I
have
think we
one
have 2
for
different.
one for the governmental agencies, and then
Mhm.
one for chamber, Kiwanis, Rotary, you know, kind of the nonprofit, I guess. But civic,
Business leaders?
business,
Civic and
yes,
business
civic and business leaders, does that
Yeah,
make sense?
that's a good way to
So
put it,
one
yeah.
for the government entities, one for the civic and business leaders?
Yeah. And then,
And we probably should say, I mean, because again, if all the city councils, every member theoretically showed up, we wouldn't have room for the fire folks, so do we have to say, oh, we have room for 2 representatives? Do we have to?
I think you could, I think they can go through that, but maybe say, yeah, we would like to have 2 to 3 people from the 3 cities. And,
Due
and,
to space limitations, will you please designate, select, appoint,
right, I think, yeah.
you know, however you
Yeah,
want.
Thank you, okay.
What about Wall of Honor?
They
Ooh,
could,
that's
I'll put them
great.
under civic and business.
Okay, think of that.
On the civic and business, I think it sounds like it should be more than 15 to 20 people, because there's a lot of civic and a lot of business, so.
Well, I think we could
I
ask
think
them
that
to
could be more
chamber
like
and-
a town, more like a town hall for the civic and
Or we
business
could-
leaders.
I think that's,
Well, here's the problem, sometimes when you have more than 20 people and you're only meeting with them for 45 minutes, you really can't sit down and have a conversation, because everybody says, 1 or 2 things, and then 45 minutes is gone.
Then should we make that more like a town hall?
Or do we
See what
ask
I'm
them
saying?
just to send a couple representatives?
I like that plan.
I think
that makes sense.
representative is the best way to ensure that more voices are heard and it's,
That way we can get more groups in the room.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, and what else, guys? So bargaining units, schools foundation, PTA, natural leaders, CPAC, government entities, civic and business.
if I could make a suggestion, is if you do parent and school support organizations, because that will get your North Shore Schools Foundation, it will get your PTA, ensuring PTA has representation, natural leaders, parent groups, music boosters, booster
So
clubs.
combine it all.
Yeah.
So
You have
combining
communities
those come together.
Do we
No.
what?
You have
Sort of.
schools.
The community, we have a hang time, but it's run by a district employee.
It's mainly, most of our partners would be community partners, so they could fit into civic or business leaders. But we do have partnering organizations like the YMCA that maybe we could work through. Schools Foundation is
That
a
might be a
partner.
civic and business
We also have
one.
higher education, so.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and then Cascadia and faith-based,
so-
where would we
Yeah.
put them?
Oh, Cascadia, yeah.
Cascadia, I mean, you'd have.
And you'd
but
have-
Sometimes I almost,
Cascadia's
yeah,
really
sometimes
good,
I almost
right?
think of having them come with, the government
The government,
folks,
that's what I was
because I
thinking.
think he's, and they're familiar with each other.
Okay, I'm getting nervous that we're gonna squeeze people out, so that's where you have concerns, these are
Yeah,
my concerns.
and I guess the
Squeezing
question is-
people out.
Right, so in these kinds of outreach for the focus groups, I don't think the expectation is every person
I hear,
gets invited. And so yes, people get schools out, and this is in some sense reaching through the formal channels of existing organizations.
but I think we're trying to put so many groups together that I wanna make sure that we have enough. We're talking about cities, civic, business, there's a lot of different people that we could invite, so I just wanna make sure that we need to split groups up as we need to.
Well, and
My
one way to
point.
deal with that, right, so you could do the RSVP and send out all the business and civic, if that's
And
the group, and there's 2 of them, and then if at that hour, when we do that, there's 2 groups, then Tony and Ryan can split into 2, and have 2 groups of 12, or 2 groups of 15, rather than 1 group of 30 or whatever. Yeah, I share your concern, but it's knowing that we have the other mechanisms.
Right, and I think since Tony and Ryan have done this before, once we get them the list of the organizations, it'll help them organize the meetings and then they'll be able to
We-
Probably wanna
optimize,
include
yeah.
East Side Foursquare, who's
That's
another
what-
partner?
The
with
faith-
us?
faith-
Yes.
Yeah, there's several of them.
And
Well, everyone that did Community Day at Sheridan, I mean, that's,
Yeah, I think we probably, between you and Karen Orsinger, we probably have a pretty good list of.
there's 2,000 or so.
Do you have a ministerial association here?
A which?
A ministerial?
There's a group of, yes, there's a group of also pastors or
Leanna and
ministers.
Karen Orsinger are your go-to.
So we may have a faith-based day, but again,
Yeah.
once we get you guys the list, you'll be able to say, oh, we have a lot of faith-based organizations, let's go ahead and do a separate one for them instead of putting them all
Exactly,
here.
that's just what I wanna hear.
And we've
If
got
we end up
students.
getting like, 25 community organizations or business that want to be involved, we might need to split that up.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
I think that's good. And I put students down, remember, we'll get some ASB representations from the high school or
Mhm.
whatever.
Because with the quick timeline, where I'm gonna feel really comfortable is that we have a solid, and I think we've all kind of been saying this, a solid base of information, representative information coming in from as many different places as we can get it.
And to that, and now you're giving me a story. So could we have on the website, in some sense, we're gonna have these, I guess, three mechanisms. There's the individual form, there's the town hall, come y'all, and then there's the focus groups. And then if you are a part of a group that would like to participate in one of the focus groups, and you've not been invited, please click here. And so on the, so people can opt into that if we haven't otherwise, and then that conversation can be had. If it's,
It can be a slippery slope though.
okay,
It is.
I think it's important that
I'd like to add.
the board has language that's communicated that is, invites people knowing the importance of public involvement and people getting an opportunity to offer their observations and so forth. I think that having, 3, 4 communication strands available to people, knowing that there are a variety of options and what the reach out looks like, just getting that information out to people, saying, oh, wow, the district's really taking charge and doing these things, and here's when and how you can participate.
So we have 2 unconventional community groups that I'd like to add in this big pot, Save Our Challenge and the NST discussion group. That you asked for a representative.
Right, now they are, though, there's a lot of overlap with PTA, with those two groups,
Well,
though.
but they're still separate, distinct groups, so. And I think if PTA is allowed to choose 2, that might not get, because Nancy's not in charge of PTA until next year. So that doesn't mean.
Nancy is a member of the council. Many
and she's
folks
gonna
who
be
are
the
leading
president
Save Our
next year.
Challenge are also part of our high cap advisory group who would be under
So
the
did
school
we
support
add-
organization.
So are we gonna have a high cap representative there then?
Yeah.
Well, if under the school support organizations, we'll list for you, because that also includes CPAC.
Correct.
And it includes various booster clubs and organizations, so representation would be through those channels.
So will there be a representative from a high cap there then?
If they accept the invitation.
So the
We'll
we'll
make
ask-
sure there's a list, yes.
And then, okay, so then, the NSD discussion group.
Well, again, that's, and that's something to discuss, where, we have these organizations, and this has kind of been a question that I've seen over the couple of years, we have organizations that are formalized, some of them, actual nonprofits. When you start doing a parent group, the NSD discussion group, again, Nancy's one of the administrators, again, that would be a way of getting some overlap with that group. I would want to be very clear as a board, though, what criteria we're using, so we don't look like we're playing favorites.
Right.
That would be but because,
But I think it represents a lot of people. So even if it's Nancy that we extend the invitation to because she's on PTA and we have a dual allowed.
So if I can build on that, so the criteria, so it sounds like every group that we've mentioned has some almost like legal organized status as a 501c3 or some other kind of thing, whereas the NSD discussion board, which I think is lots of people are there, doesn't meet that criteria of being a formal organization. Not, and in this invitation space, and I heard Leanna say, it's a slippery slope. If we're inviting people from known, identifiable, legally created organizations, then that's a criteria. Certainly the discussion group
I'm sure that.
is very actively involved and will be able to participate, and some of those people will also be participating in the focus group. So, but I think you're exactly correct to talk about the criteria, and it sounds like that criteria that we're implicitly using is a legally recognized organization, which NSD does not meet that criteria.
And I like the idea of it being about an organization rather than an individual.
Right.
So there were,
I wasn't speaking of an individual.
well, but you,
FYI.
I know, but you used specific names, and
Well,
I
no,
like the
because
idea of us just to stay
I
focused
brought
on
up a
making
specific.
sure different organizations get represented.
Yeah, I brought up a specific name because we were talking about people that overlap. That's why I brought up a specific name.
So Kimberly, are you comfortable with having, it sounds like the criteria that we are implicitly using is this legal organization. And so that would exclude NSD discussion group because it's not, but we know that they will be participating and that they're following in that process, and they don't have that status.
Right. Because like the Bothell Neighbors Facebook page, right?
Exactly.
We're not gonna extend an invitation to everybody in the Bothell neighbors, but
But,
we
but,
know
but the
that.
invitation will be there and the information, everyone who's there hopefully will find out
Right,
and
and
have
that-
a chance to be involved.
Civic
That's where we
leaders
have
and
the-
city
town
government that are
halls, yeah.
The
part of
towns
that
and-
process.
yeah. Is that comfortable or is it?
Yeah, I think it's important to have a high cap representative there.
Well, and we
Yeah.
already, yeah, they're part of the invited
And-
list.
And special ed and, yeah.
Right,
That's
right, and I
this
think once
is all
we
the
get, and the other
different-
question is, do we want,
Discluding the other groups, I
I
understand.
didn't,
that,
I'm saying it's part of,
Right.
do we want to post this as a preliminary list of, here's all the organizations and groups that are being invited, and then ask, because there's only 5 of us here, there's 7 of us here, but we could forget
You know
someone,
what?
and we don't want to.
I mean, Karen Orsinger's job is community outreach, right? Isn't that her I would think she has the master list we're gonna delve from in terms of organizations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, no, we can't include every organization into a focus group, but I think you have it structured so that any individual who wants to be involved at a specific level can be. But we do have a list of folks that we currently partner with, how we partner with them, you know.
Right, but I guess if there's an organization, if our criteria, because I think it's
Right.
important to go that process criteria, so we're not, so if you're a formal organization, legally incorporated organization, and you would like to participate and represent your organization through one of the focus groups, I think that's a venue that we could say, and most of them should be there, and if there's someone who then wants to come to the table who wasn't otherwise there, I think that's a way, I don't think there's gonna be a lot of people there, but by making it open, we know all the people we're sending that out to.
So let me ask you a question, so just to follow down, just so I understand. So would we have to get back together and agree if someone asked to be invited? Like, kind of what do you?
I don't think so, no, I think it's if they ask to be invited, and then, but the criteria is fairly, to me, fairly simple. So say someone from a faith-based organization says, hey, I'd like to be involved. And we'd say, you know what, there's a consortium of faith-based organizations, and they have been invited. If you would like to give your voice as a faith-based organization, here's the director, and here's where that mechanism for formal organizational feedback comes from. So probably because you don't want to leave someone out, and if there's a criteria, but
Yeah, no, it's a balancing act, right? Because there are dozens and dozens and dozens of churches. So, I mean, if there's any
I'm
suggestions.
sorry, I was confused. What was the question?
Is if there's an organization that we inadvertently don't invite that would like to be part of the focus group process, should we set up a mechanism ahead of time to help facilitate that? And
The only challenge we're running into that I see is time, knowing that next week is spring break. We do need to get on identifying the list because there is a limited number of individuals to
right.
invite. It would be, how can you do that and do that effectively within this narrow window? So is there language we could try to, I mean, the push for us, number one, is to get that online survey out
Right.
to everyone. The only way to really add language would be into a press release or general message out there. So I don't know how effective that's going to be. We could try, but we're not going to be able to include every single church, and you really have a narrow
Right.
window.
But
So
what I was
I-
trying to say is you don't have to, because they're a part of a group that you're already inviting.
So.
Right.
I struggle with that, just knowing your timeline.
Yeah, and I understand, but the risk of the uninvited, and then if we basically have that and someone approaches us and says, hey, I'd like to be invited and I wasn't invited.
What if you do this, because I think we're getting a little,
Two in the weeds.
anyway, yes, would be, for this piece is, let's go with what we have and what we know now. You have time between now and when you do your finalist interviews, if there are individuals who come forward who would like to be involved in that process, depending on how you structure the process, and I'm sorry, I'm jumping.
Our ears
there,
are always open.
is, let's see what that looks like.
Yeah, and to let people know, this is a very all-inclusive process, and just the narrative that your gestures in terms of inviting, embracing the community needs to be posted in a variety of venues, and wherever that is seen, you can't say it often enough. And we will do everything we can to make sure people feel invited.
And everyone is invited to the Comey Odds. So
Yes, right.
that's
And
wide
the
open,
surveys.
everybody can do the survey, so
Right,
everybody is
yes.
absolutely, please do participate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, what's next?
Oh,
All
are we
right.
having somewhere on the website are we having somewhere on the website where people can just add extra information if they want to, like what if they forgot to put it on their survey, or just any criteria? Do you have like a,
Well, if they fill out that survey, there's that blank space where they can write whatever they want.
yeah,
Well, 3.
Kimberly, do I hear you asking if just in general throughout the process, is there an input form
yeah,
that we would have separately?
yeah, something
That
on.
has not been discussed, yeah.
Okay, I'm kind of linking it to this survey, but I
Oh,
think
okay.
that's probably a better way to state it. Is there a place where people can put their input if they have a question about the process, or if they have,
You know, that might be, I'm thinking kind of
information?
along the EDTF, that when folks came to us with very specific feedback, it was a nice way of having formalized
You had the
location
form.
from having just a simple online form.
So-
Instead of filling board members' email boxes.
So Ryan, what they're referencing is during boundary adjustment process, we had an input form that was for if folks had any questions or needed additional information. That was something that we fielded through the communications office. So I just wanted to clarify, what I'm hearing is that if people have questions about the process, not necessarily that they want to provide advice to the board.
Or input,
Right.
like the boundary, like,
So there was two different ways that it worked with EDTF, is we had open windows for collecting input on the boundary adjustment process. So it would just need to be targeted.
You know what, can we, unfortunately, we do have this.
3 o'clock coming in 7 minutes, and we've got a lot, no,
No,
we're fine,
you know
Leanne.
what, so maybe how about we work through that question? Very good question, and we'll come up with some ideas about the best way to tackle it. How's that sound?
Okay.
How's that sound? All right.
who's coming in?
Okay, and then that would take us to number 3 here, which is who would be our in-house contact?
So in-house, so Cindy, are you okay being the in-house contact? All right, so Cindy Benson.
All right, Cindy, and we have your email and phone number, so that takes care of number 3. Actually, who's our board contact? Amy, will that be you?
That will be me.
Okay. All right. Then, the district flyer, we gave you some examples of what those look like when we have done them. We can do that, but sometimes districts like to be more hands-on and take care of it themselves. So we can do it, or you can do it. Totally up to you. We do it. It's in our fee, so you're not going to get charged extra for it.
So Leanne, are you happy with Reed Associates doing the flyer?
Oh, sure.
Oh, sure.
I like that.
So what that means, Cindy, is that you and Molly are going to be working on that in the sense Molly can, if there's certain photos that you want to use, get them to Molly. If there's certain information that you want in the flyer, she'll ask you for that too. So you get it to her, she'll take care of it all, okay? Okay.
All right, great.
Then, approval of all advertisements, do we have that sheet in front of us?
So suggested search advertising, the green one.
That's correct. So, with that being said, on that sheet, the most important things that you need to focus on are AASA and Ed Week. There should be the top 2 things at the top of the page.
Yep.
Tony can tell you more than anybody else, those are the holy grail when it comes to people looking for jobs. They go to those sites. And so it's important that you go ahead and advertise it. Again, I'm just telling you how you're going to get the most bang for your buck. All those things that say free, why not? They're free, so let's advertise in those, and then obviously down below our website, and you're going to get that. And then there's others below that say suggested. So like Alice, the Latino, or NATSI, which is the Black School Educator site, or there's Women in Education. There's also LinkedIn. So those are options for you. You can discuss them really quick, but I'll just tell you, LinkedIn, we don't get any feedback usually from LinkedIn. So I would suggest you save your money on that.
Yeah, NABZ, the National Alliance of Black School Educators, and the Association of Latino Administrators and Superintendents, two very important publications. I would recommend that you advertise in those two
Sounds good.
as well.
What about the women, the,
Yes, of course.
which one was that?
Where was that listed, Ryan?
I believe it's down there, is it not?
No.
I don't see
I
it,
just
but
said female.
Well, then, you know what, then the office, has done its job. We actually were not getting much at all from that organization.
What about the
So-
Chronicle of Higher Education? I know all of my administrators at my school get that. Do you get feedback from that one?
Which one is it?
The Chronicle of Higher Education.
A few, not a whole lot.
What about the
Most superintendents are reading, the top two.
what about the indiversity.com website?
I suggest you save your money.
Okay.
Okay, so I like I think what I'm hearing is all of free plus the
Top two.
Top four.
Top four.
Top four.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, top four.
All right, does that sound good to
You
everyone?
get that one, Ryan?
Yeah, so it's gonna be top two and then Hollis and Essex.
Yep,
And there's no other one? What about the district administration website?
I'd save your money on that as well.
Okay. And
Just being honest.
American Association of School Personnel Administrators?
Nope, I'd save your money.
Okay.
Yeah, they're focusing on the top two.
Four.
Yep, I agree with that.
Okay.
Okay,
Top two in order to the most prominent.
okay.
Okay,
all right.
So number 6 is determining any certification, licensure, or other legal requirements. So is there any, like for example, in the state of, I'll use Wisconsin again. In the state of Wisconsin, in order to be a superintendent, you have to have taught in the classroom for 2 years. So that's a requirement. So what I'm asking, and maybe Tony can help with this, is there any specific little issue like that in the state of Washington that we need to know about?
Not that I know of, I can double check with our HR director just to make sure, but have you ever heard of
And
anything?
then the other thing with that is, and I always kind of bring it up, but some people will go ahead and say, well, the person has to have a doctorate. And so very rare is it that a district says they must have a doctorate, we will not accept applications if they do not, or if they're all but dissertation. I think that limits yourself to a lot of great superintendents.
Our
out
current
there that-
superintendent doesn't have a doctorate.
We're fine.
I think, yeah, are we okay leaving that one open?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so number 7, who's the contact that we should send invoices to?
I believe Cindy.
let's go back
Cindy,
to
you're getting volunteered for everything.
I believe she's in the room.
Ryan, and with the board's approval, I'd like to suggest something.
Sure.
To revisit number 6,
Okay.
to think about, do you want your candidates to have been classroom teachers? Do you want someone who's been a principal, central office experience?
That's gonna come out on our priority list, though,
Okay.
isn't it? It does it? Is that one of the questions?
I think required, probably not, but preferred.
Preferred?
Yeah, I think like,
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, I think being a principal, being a teacher, and having a doctorate are all preferred, but I don't think they're required. At least that's where
I agree with that comment. I
So you
absolutely
can't get
agree.
an unconventional candidate.
But I think
Right.
places the appropriate focus on the board, with the board, on the kind of candidates you're looking for.
Yeah.
And you prefer that they have the instructional practice and understanding and administrative experience.
And 99% of the people, unless you tell us that you're interested in non-traditional candidates, are gonna have that kind of, a career path, so.
Okay,
Then lastly is, the discussion of salary. So, Tony,
Does everyone have this?
459 here. If it is okay with the board, maybe I can go ahead and get all the information that we talked about right now to the office and let them know about that. And Tony, do you feel okay having having this discussion with them with all the information that's been provided?
Yeah, I think we've got a limitation here because of the room this afternoon. But I think it's a conversation the board needs to have, probably first among themselves. And I'd be happy to be engaged in that conversation because I believe that Ryan and I are very excited about moving forward. And I think that to dislodge a highly successful superintendent, he or she needs to have an attractive compensation package, especially in the environment that we have here, in terms of housing.
Looking at
Go
some
ahead.
of the comparisons, looking at some of the comparisons, even within your own county and the state of Washington, there's some big, big differences. I think that we might be on the low end, just statewide as well as nationally. But can we have that conversation with you? Because in some of these publications, in order to get those published, we have to have a salary. So this is kind of an important conversation we need to have.
Is it really salary?
Can we put a salary range?
No, I would suggest against it. Because here's the deal, if you put,
Here's Larry's.
the range is $200,000 to $250,000. If you're gonna apply for that job, what are you gonna want? You're gonna want the $250,000. And so then people, what we suggest is this. We suggest in the range of, for example, $235,000. As a board, it gives you a little bit of middle room. Say if it's an assistant superintendent or a superintendent with maybe not so much skill set, then you can bring them maybe in at 231. Now, if it's a rock star candidate, maybe you want to go 237. It just depends. But in the range of is usually the best way to go.
Yeah, I think that you want to have it negotiable. You want to be able to sign, seal, and deliver a high-quality candidate. They may be making $250 at their present school district, and it's not attractive for them. It doesn't pencil out for them, especially if their spouse has to relocate and has to find a job. I think that the board needs to be thinking on the higher end rather than the low range.
I agree.
I know that this is an attractive position, and you want to get the very best. And you know, it's back to the point where, of course you want to have competitive salaries, but you're not going to win league championships. You're not going to win without a high-end level of compensation. And I think that conversation needs to be within the board. But I think you get a sense that Ryan and I believe that money matters.
Yeah, if you look at the salary comparison charts too, the numbers don't lie.
So, I'm thinking we don't have time for this discussion today.
No. But when you say base salary, that only includes their dollars, it doesn't include any other compensation that they're getting?
Correct.
Base salary is just the base. All those numbers that we've given you, that is the base salary.
It doesn't include 403Bs or 529s or car allowance or,
Do any of these, do any districts do like a bonus option or a?
yes, they do. No,
They
around
do,
around the nation, it
but-
doesn't happen.
I'll say the majority of them do not, but some of them do. But you have to, again, have your number high enough to the point that they'll even, take the job considering that there is some bonus in there.
You know, there could be performance targets, that are incentives and bonuses, that the board decides to build within the contract. You have a great deal of latitude and flexibility, and I would just urge you to look at a package that is attractive and may exceed other local school districts.
So, I'd like to make a suggestion.
Yeah.
Can we find time the week after spring break to have a meeting on this?
Yeah, when do you need to?
But when you need it.
You need to buy the time you put the flyer, right?
Yeah, we had, let me see, I'm just trying to take a look at those.
Because we're already late. I don't think we can have a good discussion on this right now, unfortunately.
Don't we kind of need video here or do we not?
What would be helpful?
But yeah, in
No,
terms
no,
of
no.
when, so
No.
you
It's not
guys,
material.
tell me when we have to have a salary to you by.
Because it's like.
Ryan, what's the deadline?
Looks like our promotional flyer draft was due, how about this? Amy, if it's okay,
Uh-huh.
if I tell Molly